and all. And this would be a story of me traveling from non-touchable to a self-respectful life of a Raees Mohammed. So I will talk about how it started and where I stand right now. So the first thing is, I, as like any other non-touchable person, I was not aware of caste or discrimination or untouchability. Only after going for education, you come to know not because of the education, the methodological subjects does not teach you about caste. It's about the students who gather together and the student activism which teaches you what is caste. And they teach me the status and the condition of my particular caste. And they tell me that this is the case of just hold on. So when I go to Hyderabad for my MA, MPhil and PhD, it is then Dalit activists, they they inform me that the caste which I come from has been neglected and been very backward, and there are no researchers or no activists or nobody there to speak on behalf of that caste or to study that caste. So I thought that felt that academics and development of a particular individual can also develop the individual's caste. So, for example, if I become a collector, then I move away from the caste. That is the idea, like anyone's idea, like the left people's idea was the idea I had. But when they told me, that is where I started looking, and they started giving me poison bread, some of the Marathi literatures. And it was a long journey to understand caste. It took some 2 years at least to understand how caste functions. And from then the journey goes, then I take it very personally, that my mother and my community, I take that very personally, since my mother and father were from this scavenging community, and they were the sanitary workers. So I felt that I have to do something, that my mother's and father's occupation, to do something for my mother and father, the occupation they do. So my intention was always since the beginning that it is not about my mother and father particularly, it is about the work they do. So my intention was to do something for the work, that other people should not continue this work. So always my intention was that, and my family was also very supportive. Since my childhood, my mother want to prove something, so do something. And she was also very caring of the community. So I think due to that, that was also there in me. So my mother was always encouraging me to study, and even though she was not feeling well, and I could have got a job somewhere, but still she was asking me to keep studying and researching. So I think she was a driving force. So she was a driving force, and then my mother and father's work was my primary research. So then it is then I identified that people around me, Dalits particularly, started telling that I'm a migrant. I'm not a native of Tamil Nadu state. And then when I looked back into that state, and it was the time 2004, I was in Hyderabad. And then when I browsed Arundaviyar name, that time Thirumalan's party was growing. And when I browsed Arundaviyar, Chaklier, it was not there on internet at all. Parayar would be there, and Thirumalan's party would be there, and Kamalan, many websites would be there. And but no information would be there on this Chakliers. No information at all. So then I was thinking that, okay, this is the status of Chakliers, and then started reading literatures, especially particularly Dalits, particularly Parayas, like Ravikumar and Thirumalavan used to say that these are not Dalits, and also Thirumalavan at one instance also asked for a separate reservation for Kshatriyas based on language, that is linguistics reservation. So these things were driving me to find. And my MPhil research, I went to my professors and I said, see, my community is in this condition and I need to document. I have to do something. They said, why don't you document the debates surrounded between the migration identity? So interestingly, Thirumavalavan and many other literature writers in Tamil Nadu and in India particularly, they all reject the Orientalist literature, but Thirumavalavan and Dalit writers, especially Ravi Kumar, they all accept and absorb this Oriental literature when it comes to Arundhati. For example, they would say that Kshatriyas are a migrant because they speak a Telugu, and they'll give a footnote reference to Thurston. Interestingly, Edward Thurston, book Caste and Tribes in India, what he writes about Kshatriyas, he says that Kshatriya word is not there in Tamil literature. Therefore, they must be, since they speak Telugu, they must be from Canaries, that is just Telugu-speaking states. And recent time, Madhivanan, a writer from Kshatriya community, he has been doing a research and he found that there are many scriptures of 10, 50, some 1,000 years before that Kshatriya's names are referred in that scriptures. So therefore, he says that Thurston did not saying that there is no reference to Kshatriya is a myth and it is a lie. But even then, even recently, Ravi Kumar bought a book. Still, he started referring Thurston, and so anyway, that is a case of non-native migrant identity. So when I was doing that in Hyderabad, I found that in Kerala, the scavengers are called Tamils, and the Tamil-speaking population, and in Karnataka, it is Telugu-speaking population, and Tamil Nadu, let us keep as Telugu-speaking population, and then you go to Andhra Pradesh, it is not Telugu-speaking population, but it is Hindi-speaking population. So therefore, in all states, not their own state-speaking people work this occupation. So interestingly, this is the case across India. So what is the point is, whether they are, what is the status of this kind of a community was my interest. So then I found that this caste, for example, Kshatriya's reference is there, Kshatriya and Kshatriya as a reference is there in 10,000, 20, 1,060, 1,075, all these culvertible, that is scriptures and inscriptions on statues in Tiruvannamalai temple, which is there. And so all these were telling me, if Kshatriyas were there even for 1,000 years, why even let us keep 500 years, why they have not become part of Tamil Nadu? And that is what it was interesting me. Why in all these states, even like in Kerala, they all those people, even who do not know caste, they will know the scavengers in Kerala are not the Malayali-speaking population. So that much of consciousness, how does it come? And then I found that the linguistic state is always a Hindu state, have a purity ideology that they do not approve this unclean occupation, and they always want to keep this away. But anyway, that is a hypothesis, not even a theoretical hypothesis. That's just a hypothesis. But very interestingly, it is not only the people who are kept as migrant and outsiders, even the toilets clean were kept outside. For example, houses won't have toilets. And that is it was a government houses, did not have toilets officially. And the quarters, government quarters did not have toilets in the early generation, like my quarters which we lived, did not have toilets. And government quarters, in a little bigger level, they all had toilets behind the house. So these toilets were always behind the house, and agraharas kept behind the house and away from the main house. So always toilet as a construction was away. Even now the Swachh Bharat campaign kept the toilets away from the house. It gives you money only when you build the toilet away from the house as a separate construction. If you build the house inside the house, you won't get compensation for that. Also, when they built the Delhi Metro, they did not have toilet plans. And when some people are questioned, then they said that we forgot. And then they said it is because of security. Then later part they included toilet, but even still now, toilet would be outside the main checkpost. Toilet wouldn't be a major part. However, the Britishers, when they built metros in Bengal, they had toilets. Other toilets. Now you go to malls, public roads, you won't have toilets. That's why men you find urinating. That does not mean that men can defecate. Men can't defecate. So this is how it goes. And then where this idea comes for toilet, not to keep toilet, and toilet as an unholy structure. Why toilet is not kept? Because toilet is considered as an unholy structure. And if you don't have a space, they don't keep it. They always prefer open defecation. So my point is the open defecation itself is a part of Hinduism. Even Gandhi and many people promoted that. And Hinduism also promotes open defecation. Then where does this come from? This idea of not keeping toilet unholy structure is Hinduism. For example, take the temples. And caste is central to Hinduism. And in Hinduism, toilets are not allowed to be kept within the temple architecture. So the temple will always avoid constructing toilets even now. It will be very far away, not even nearest. It will be very far away from the like Tirupati Devasthanam. I haven't been, but I've heard that Tirupati Devasthanam toilets are on the ground, on the foothills, and on the uphill the temple would be there. So just imagine the distance. If something happens in between, what should people do? And toilets, for example, whenever there is a festival, temple festival, still you don't have toilets. Even now, many temples in the main bazaars don't have toilets. And churches also does not have toilets. And churches are very uniquely in India. They construct toilets away from the main architecture, all the even British toilets. And historically, also, churches only recently included toilets in the architecture, especially in 1600 later. And English architectures, when they built in India, they built in 1800s. When they build architecture here, they build architecture with the three entrances, one for the servant and one for the main entrance and one for the scavengers. And this particular architecture is an architecture unique to India. It is not there abroad. It is not there in British architecture, like Irving is the main architecture in India, who constructed many of the colonial architectures in Mumbai, Madras, Bengal, Shimla, Delhi. In all these architectures, you can find rolling stairs. And these rolling stairs, in abroad, it would refer to servants, but here it would refer to sweepers. And what I mean by sweepers is it's a blueprint. I've seen the blueprint, I accessed the blueprint of Shimla, the institute where I studied, and the neighboring buildings which the Shimla has. And all the buildings have a separate rolling stairs. And for a servant, and those two won't intermingle each other. And also the living space for the sweepers were separate and cooks were separate, fires were separate. Fire and the cook were same, servants they were called. And fires were not called servants. Servants and the cook all were together. And the sweepers had a very small hut. And all the houses had separate entrances. So the separate entrance is a part of this Hindu architecture. And interestingly, this was adopted and it has been continuing. But at the same time, this was not the case with the masjid. So I happened to visit this masjid where I studied in Hyderabad. Then I found that masjid and dargahs and all have toilets within not even 10 meters. Those masjids, like Maulali, there is a masjid, dargah in Maulali, Hyderabad. That Maulali, you can just squat, you can hear the knock. So it will be just 5 meters and toilet done, not one toilet, there will be 10 toilets. And in Hyderabad, there was a big masjid. In that masjid, there are 15 to 20 toilets alone were constructed, old toilets, and then urinals were there. So that is what was interesting me. And then I started studying deeper into this Islam. And then I found the aspect of whatever Dalits have been fighting for, self-respect, like eating together, touching, living together. And more than that, the aspect of body. For example, in Hinduism, our own foot is considered as an untouchable. We will leave our footwear outside. So my understanding, my thing is, in India, you leave the footwear out of the temple. You also leave Dalits out of the temple. You don't construct toilets inside the temple. You don't allow Dalits to the temple. So this is ideologically constrained. And then even you find this slippers being kept outside your house. And you don't treat your body in like Echila, Echiki Purandavanu. In Tamil, there is a word slur for your spit. And great humiliation in Tamil cinema, you find a popular culture is that spitting on someone. And then you find taking the slipper and beating. The slipper is something as though it does not hurt much, but beating the slipper means that humiliating someone. And that humiliation is partly because of caste, and we are beating with the Dalit slipper. And then and this concept is very different in Islam. So I was finding it very revolutionary the way Islam treats one's body, and then this Hinduism treats body. And Hinduism is a way of culture. Many people, atheists also, many of you might say that you are all an atheist. But Hinduism is not about, atheism does not counter your religious aspect, of cultural aspect, which you enter. Even now, whatever I'm telling you, you would be following. Like your toilet should be somewhere outside, or in the corner you might have, if you have a space, and then you will leave your slippers outside. Even in abroad, you may not leave, but in India, you will leave. Even abroad, when I was in South Africa, people can identify easily which is Indian house based on the slippers they keep outside. And also the toilet, the way you use the mugs and not using the paper. But we can talk about cleanliness. Cleanliness is heart of Hinduism. Cleanliness and purity, pollution, ideology. So therefore, it's a way of life. Hinduism is a way of life. You cannot escape Hinduism's way of life except you adopt another way of life. And Buddhism is not an alternative to that way of life, because Buddhism does not counter your ichila, does not counter your concept of your body itself, where you divide your body parts into pure and impure in Hinduism. Christianity does not counter, Buddhism doesn't counter, it's only Islam counters. And also, like this it goes on. So I find that Islam, in my research I found this, and I found the masjid as a place where you can experience the self-respect. And I went across different people, and we have been covering Dalit Camera for the last 8 years. These 8 years, atrocities have been committed on Christian Dalits, like Chunduru, Karam Chedu and all. Chundu, we are Christian Dalits. And Buddhists were Thailandji. But I don't find any atrocities on Muslims based on caste have been committed even now. So when I went, all the history, Dalit movement history always talks about conversion into Christianity and Buddhism. They do not talk about Meenakshi conversion, that is Rahmatnagar. So that was very shocking. Then I visited Rahmatnagar and I talked to many people there. And so interestingly, some people who did not embrace Islam, they were telling me that I made a mistake by not embracing Islam, because that time my mother said the name, I was very emotional. I feel that is a wrong thing I did. I should have embraced Islam, because those who embraced Islam are living happily, and all of them call them as a Bai. They are not associated with the community. Community means as untouchables. And then I met some untouchables who embraced Islam and who Metupalan. Then it was shocking, because we always talk about embracing. So I found that why this Dalit history has not talked about Islam conversion, but that's a different aspect altogether. Then when after this Metupalayam issue, I went across Metupalayam and asked all the masjid people, are there any Dalits who embraced? Then they showed me so many Dalits who embraced Islam, and who are not even identifying themselves as Muslims. In the sense, they are not saying that I'm not Dalit. They are nowhere in the history of embracing. Why do we always refer to Meenakshi as though that is the only embracing? Islam embracing is happening every day among Dalits. Then I went and talked to them. It was so interesting experiences they were saying. One guy who embraced within the family, brother embraced, younger brother did not embrace. So I asked him to respect the younger brother who embraced, and the brother who embraced, and the younger brother who hasn't embraced was being treated like a Dalit in front of him. So he'll call him, hey, come here, and another person, the same costume, they will call him Bhai, come, Devanga Bhai. So there's so much of experiences there on the internet also. In Dalit Camera, we have documented so many. So in that case, I found that what we need is self-respect and confidence and the courage to fight the caste. And for that, only Islam can be the only alternative at any cost. Islam is the alternative for caste. And also caste is something you can move away from it. Caste is not like a racism, where racism is embedded in the body. where black means black. It is permanently, you cannot escape that. But caste, you can escape from that. For example, now I wear a cap and I go skull cap and I go, I'm a Bai right now. So my caste has been eradicated, erased. Everything changes in my life. So I think caste is also not like racism. And I think many of the Dalits and the other intellectuals have been not studying caste properly. So Ambedkar and Periyar were the only people I find who could understand caste much deeper. Like Ambedkar saying that caste you cannot fight being Hindu. And he also says in many places that Hinduism is a way of life. And he also says that Hinduism is this one, you have to unlearn what you have learned. And atheism is not a solution at all. Atheism is an escapism to be a Hindu and carry on the identity of a Hindu. And just for the namesake telling atheism, I think that is the point. Therefore, Islam is the only solution to fight caste.